This tutorial will walk you through completing PM work requests. So in the Craftsperson bucket, click Complete PM Work Requests. The list on the top left corner will show you all PM work requests that have been assigned to you as a craftsperson, and they are grouped by PM procedure and date. So you may see multiples of the same PM procedure in here, and that's because the dates are different. So if you had an emergency light PM from October that you hadn't yet completed, and then the November one came in, you would see two different emergency light instances here. So to complete a work request, first click the PM procedure with the date of the PM that you would like to complete. Let's click this one first, Emergency Lights Monthly. Now in the bottom left corner, you will see that there are multiple buildings of work requests that have been assigned to me. You can click on one building and it will display all the individual PM work requests belonging to that building in the top right corner. You could also select multiple buildings if you wish. So this view will allow you to complete many work requests at once as opposed to completing them one at a time. So right now I've only selected the NE4 building. So if I completed all of the NE4 work requests for this PM on the same day, I can complete them all at the same time. And to do that, I click this top checkbox to select all of these work requests, and then I enter the hours to complete all of them. And what this routine will do is when you hit the complete button, it will divide the hours evenly by the number of work requests you selected. So if I put in that this took me 5 hours to complete, each one of these work requests will have 1 hour assigned to it. And it will enter the same date started, date finished, and iCare notes that I enter here for all of these work requests. So if one of these was done on a different day, you could simply uncheck it and then complete that one separately from the others. Or if you needed to enter different iCare notes for that one particular one, you would just complete it separately than the other 5 in the list. So we'll pick today's date as date started and date finished, enter some iCare notes in here, and hit the complete button. Now in this view, I also have the ability to complete multiple buildings worth of work requests at the same time. So maybe I went to building NE6, NE7, and SE1 all on the same day, and they all have the same completion information. So you can tick all 3 of those buildings, click Filter Selected, and you'll see the work requests for all 3 of those buildings appear in the top right corner. Then you can select all of them, enter the same completion information in, and hit the complete button. Now some PMs will have a checklist associated with them, and what the checklist is meant to do is replace information that previously was handwritten on the paper work requests. So for the electrical work team, for example, you had the emergency generator PM forms that asked you a whole bunch of questions and allowed you to record different values on them. So now that's been built into the system electronically. So if I were to click on an emergency generator work request here, and then select a building, there's actually a checklist associated here. You'll see a checklist button. And in this view, sometimes it's nice to hide this navigator, and you do that by clicking the arrow at the bottom, and you can show it again by re-clicking the arrow. It just gives you a little bit more real estate on the screen, and you'll be able to see which PMs have a checklist associated with them more easily. So if you see this checklist button, the checklist must be completed prior to the work request being completed. If I were to enter in my completion info now and hit complete, an error message would pop up saying that the checklist needed to be completed first. So if I click the checklist button, I'll see a series of questions, and these were the questions that were previously showing on the printed PM work request form. So you go through and you just check yes, no, or not applicable, and some of these fields may have, or questions may have, a red asterisk next to them. That means that they're mandatory. If there's no red asterisk, they're not mandatory. So if some of these don't apply to the particular piece of equipment that you're servicing, you can skip them. But you can go through, hit yes, yes, no, not applicable, whatever. And then you've got some fields that require you to type in a value. So record hours on meter, start time in seconds, oil pressure, etc., etc. And you'll just continue going through this checklist until you get to the bottom. Now there's a follow-up required question on this particular checklist, and if you tick yes here, there's another button called Create Request that's enabled. So what this allows you to do is create a follow-up on-demand work request right from this view without having to go out to your home page and click Report Problem. And this automatically populates with your A0 number, the location of the particular piece of equipment that this follow-up applies to, as well as the equipment code. So all you would need to do is select the appropriate problem type and type in the work description here. Then you click Submit, and you'll get a pop-up with your work request ID. You can click OK. So when you're finished with your checklist, you simply hit Complete. Then you can move on to completing the PM work request itself. So you do need to check the work request that you're going to be completing, or many, if there were many here. And again, put in your hours, date started, date finished, any notes that you have, and hit the complete button. That's all. Thank you for watching.